Hello, my loves. Today, you'll learn how to finally stop losing yourself in relationships. And I'm going to share what I've learned as a licensed therapist and as pretty much the original Labrador girlfriend. And by the time I finish my tea, you're going to understand why this is happening to you. And I'll give you 5 simple ish actions you can use this week, today, whether you're in a relationship or not. So I'm going to speak to that moment where you woke up one day and looked at your life and don't recognize it, don't recognize yourself anymore. And you're not sure where all this resentment and yearning has even come from. And this is an important topic because I see you. I see the gifts that you have in loving people deeply, and how in this process you might have sacrificed parts of yourself so that the relationship can feel less friction. But there's a part of you that knows that this type of love isn't sustainable for you, for all your well being, not just your emotional self, but your physical self too. So let's dive in. What do I mean when I say lose yourself? I think a lot of us can have a felt sense of what this means, but I want to paint a clearer picture for us so you can understand better what's happening both internally and how your internal process is affecting how you act out in the world. And why don't we start with a familiar story? Girl meets boy. Or should I say, this woman met a man. And let me tell you, I think the world of this man. He makes me laugh. He excites my whole body. And he says things like, I think you'd be a great mother. And I'm very close with my family. Me and my mom have a great relationship. Things that I love to hear. Fast forward 8 months of dating. And maybe I've stopped hanging out with my friends. And I haven't been mountain biking as much. And I feel like I'm constantly monitoring my boyfriend's moods, defaulting to whatever he wants to do. And maybe it feels like I'm walking on eggshells and I'm always available to him. Now I'm confused about how things have changed so much from when I was single to now, from when I was a well adjusted person with many diverse supports and friends and interests, to being angry at him for making him change my life so much. I feel like I'm disappearing under the enormity of him and our relationship. So, what's happened? Internally, I'm feeling disconnected from myself, resentment towards my partner. I'm hyper aware of his needs, his moods. There's a bit of a fear of expressing myself because things have maybe felt like an emotional roller coaster. And this affects how I react to him, right? I'm over accommodating. I'm letting go of some of my hobbies. I hold back my opinions. I'm kind of shit at holding my boundaries, and I'm dropping everything at a moment's notice to come to him. Sometimes I even just default to his judgment. But ultimately, I notice myself changing so that I can fit into his life better. Does this mean that the relationship is over? No. Does it mean something's wrong with me? Definitely not. This type of behavior is common, especially during those initial first months or slowly over years. But there may be a reason why you and me struggle more with losing yourself in relationships than others. So now I'll ask the big question. Why me? Why you? Why is it so hard for you? You're so amazingly grounded and secure when you're on your own. Why can't that version of you stay when you get into a relationship? Now, in my opinion, there's maybe 5 main reasons. So, reason number 1, in early life, how you learned to love and what love was supposed to feel like. Well, it got a little twisted. And you may have learned that love was something to be earned by being good or not having big feelings. And this prompted you to overdevelop your ability to gauge how others feel. Because this skill is how you received connection, the question then became, who do I need to be so they stay? The second reason, and this is kind of a result of the first reason, but Now, as an adult, you have a weak or undefined sense of boundaries, and your self worth is tied to being chosen or loved. And when I say self worth, I mean your ability to prioritize and value your internal experience. So, deep down, whether you're aware of it, you believe that being together is greater than being yourself. The third reason comes from what I call the fusion state, which occurs in early relationships. It's the we are one feeling, and it's intoxicating. It gives you all the yummy brain chemicals that are very addicting, but it also blurs your personal identity. And it can lead to putting your partner on this pedestal. And if you've heard of limerence before, this is kind of what I'm talking about. Reason number 4, and this is at the core of a lot of what we're talking about today, but it's the fear of abandonment or rejection. I want to share something that Stephanie Riggs shared the other day. She said, I've never met a person who didn't fear being left that doesn't regularly abandon themselves. And I've never met a person who isn't scared of rejection that isn't super critical of themselves. So let that sink in. And lastly, reason number 5, and this is an important one that may need more reflection than just this moment, but in your life, you may have experienced cultural and or gender conditioning that has primed you to be selfless, to be the good partner, or it's shamed you into not being yourself. Like who you are is not welcomed in relationships, in love, or in society. So if any of these reasons feel familiar, my heart goes to you, and I'm right here with you. This is me also, and there's a way forward, a way to no longer fear being ourselves and to step into our radically beautiful, honest selves. Okay, first we need to recognize the pattern that is unfolding. So make the subconscious conscious. And it's quite simple. Once you see it, you'll get more and more practice at seeing it. And what we can see, we can change. So we can learn to interrupt this pattern. In in therapy speak, how this unfolds is you get triggered, which brings up a negative belief or emotion. Then your protection mechanisms fire on, which typically produces a negative outcome, which then triggers you even further, thus repeating this awful cycle. An example of how this plays out in real life would be, okay, let's say your partner asks if they can stay late at work again, even though you've been looking forward to dinner together. You think to yourself, maybe it's not a big deal, but if I say I'm upset, they'll think I'm too demanding. Maybe I should just be easygoing so I don't ruffle any feathers. And you text back, that's fine, no worries. And deep down, you feel hurt and disappointed. And on a deeper level, what you're telling yourself is that your needs don't matter as much as theirs. And as you suppress your feelings, resentment builds and you start to feel invisible or unimportant. But because you don't express what you really feel, you're left waiting for them to notice your needs on their own. And when they don't, the silence feels like abandonment, sparking the cycle again. And if you're thinking, Nicole, this isn't really that big of a deal, I'm going to tell you you're wrong. Because when this starts to happen repeatedly, it's really easy for it to become your default mode. Like losing yourself isn't usually defined by one moment. It's this gradual degradation of choosing to please others at the expense of your own desires. And if now you're asking, well, what about compromise? How do I do that without feeling like I'm erasing myself? Okay, well, that's a good question. On one hand, we have to meet your needs, and on the other hand, we have to meet their needs. And maybe there's other hands in the mixes, but for this example, let's say there's just two. But compromise is about finding the overlap without erasing the other side. It's bending the how while still honoring the who. It's a collaboration. If you're confused about how to honor the who, well, that's what we're here to talk about. That's what my 5 tips are all about, on how to honor yourself in relationships so you stop abandoning yourself in the pursuit of connection. So, my 5 tips are about finding ways to interrupt this pattern. I know that there's several ways in which we can interrupt this cycle. We can learn not to be triggered. We can unlearn negative beliefs about ourselves. We can learn to process and regulate our emotions, all with the goal of changing our defense mechanisms. So, in other words, how we respond to others so that A, we don't have the negative outcome that typically follows being triggered. Instead of feeling disconnected, we feel connected with our partners after communicating our needs and collaborating on decisions together. And B, we can learn to trust ourselves and that we can handle what comes when we receive a negative outcome from this cycle. And by that, I mean you did the thing. You were triggered, you regulated, you said how you felt with kindness and clarity, and they still pulled away. And in this moment, you're able to recognize that them pulling away has nothing to do with your worth. Okay, so this is how we can do some of this. Number 1, get clear on your values, your dating and relationship non negotiables, and what compromise feels like. This is going to help you not get swept up in some relationship that isn't aligned with how you want to live and what you want your life to feel like. So, when I say values, I mean what matters deeply to you. Is it family, honesty, freedom? And does your partner share this value or respect yours? Because this will make a big difference in your ability to stay true to yourself. Now, your non negotiables in relationships are boundaries you won't cross, like wanting to have kids, having emotional availability, living in sobriety, whatever it may be. Having clarity on what you will not compromise on helps with choosing partners and making big decisions in relationships, which of course leads us to compromises. Now, these are the things that you can adjust without losing yourself. And again, this is going to be different for everyone. Maybe you don't have any, maybe you have a lot, and that's okay. It's your life. But the question to ask yourself, where is my line that I'm willing to bend for the sake of my relationship before it feels like a self betrayal? For example, maybe you need to work out, do yoga or Pilates, but you can compromise where the gym is so that you can be home to connect with your partner. Or you might need your partner to be super emotionally available, but you can compromise on how often you guys communicate. And maybe you really want to have kids, but you're open to how many. The key thing to remember here is that you're a part of a team and you're open to working on compromise together. It's got to be collaborative. What we're trying to avoid here is just walking into a relationship without reflecting on how we actually want to live our lives, because then it'll be much easier to be along for the ride in someone else's life. And one day you'll realize that you picked the feeling and comfort of being chosen over yourself, just so that you wouldn't be left. And yes, our values and non negotiables, they can change as we get older. So it's super duper important to keep checking in with yourself about your desires and your goals. Tip number 2, and this one's actually easier than it sounds, but girl, you gotta maintain your identity outside of your relationship. I actually view this as a non-negotiable with yourself in dating and or your relationship. It can look like many things, but for me, I try to commit to maintaining doing at least one hobby a week solo, one date night for myself a week, and one friend or family visit per week. And this is just what feels right to me, but choose something that feels right to you. And I'll admit, I don't always maintain this, but life feels so much more whole when I do. It feels balanced. And because my partner is no longer at the center of my well-being, he also feels relieved because we're both reminded that he is not my whole world. That takes the pressure off both of us. And I feel more confident and secure in my relationship because of this. So make an effort with this one and find what's important to keeping your identity. Hot tip number 3 is to learn how to practice pausing before saying yes. So, okay, earlier I referred to myself as a golden retriever girlfriend. And if you didn't watch The Summer I Turned Pretty, what I mean is that my enthusiasm when I see my partner is normally next level. If I'm in a room full of empty couches, I choose to sit right next to him and be touching. It drives him nuts, but I can't help it. I'm excited to be included to do almost anything, and I'm actually quite easy to please. Essentially, I'm the physical embodiment of the word yes. So, what's really important for me to do is slow down my yes. Let's face it, I'm still gonna be down 80% of the time, but I need to create time to do a full check in to see if this is what I actually want to be doing. So for me, my pause usually looks like me telling him that I'll think about it. And then I try to ask myself one or all of these following questions. So, 1, do I actually want to do this, or do I just not want to disappoint them? So, here I'm trying to check whether it's a true desire or if I'm just people pleasing. And again, there's nothing wrong with people pleasing, but we're trying to turn into what's going on within. Okay. So, number 2, if I say yes, what am I saying no to? And this helps me check in with honoring my time, my energy, and other priorities. Number 3, does this align with my values and current needs? This one's kind of a bit deep, but it helps for those bigger moments. And my last question, how will I feel about this decision tomorrow? Which is a helpful way to frame how our decisions affect us over time. Is this a quick fix or a choice that's going to feel good long term? Even if you can squeeze in one of these questions before you say yes, you're starting to build that habit of intentional decisions instead of automatic responses, which is the goal. Tip number 4 is you got to stop outsourcing your self-worth. And I'm going to remind you again that self-worth is your ability to prioritize and value your internal experience. It isn't something that you can just turn up on command or manifest your way into feeling. It's more like tending to a garden. The little everyday things that you do to nurture it adds up over time. When you rely on your partner's mood, approval, or attention to feel okay, you've basically handed them the keys to your confidence. And let me tell you, that's way too much power for anyone else to hold. Instead, we have to start building small, steady practices that anchor your worth back into you. So this could look like every night writing down 3 things you're proud of yourself for, or following through on a personal goal, big or small. You know, for me, it might be choosing to read a book for pleasure instead of self-help, and signing up for a sassy hip hop dance class. But think of it as daily garden tending. Every time you honor a choice that aligns with you, it's like a small mineral deposit into your own soil, which strengthens your roots. And if you have strong roots, then it's less likely that you're going to just blow away in the storm of someone else's opinion or attention. And lastly, we have my 5th tip, which is to get comfy and familiar with boundaries. And we're going to do this by practicing what I like to call micro boundary setting. So, what is a boundary? It's the line where you end and someone else begins. It's basically what's okay for me and what's not okay for me. A lot of people think boundaries are these giant dramatic lines in the sand, where actually the everyday micro boundary is where you learn to build real confidence. They're the small everyday limit you set with yourself and your partner that honor your preferences, your needs, your energy. Okay, examples of micro boundaries are saying, actually, I'd rather watch this tonight, instead of just going along with whatever he wants. Or choosing not to answer texts during your workout or your working time. Another example might be letting your partner know, okay, I need 10 minutes after work for myself before we can chat. And it also is as simple as, okay, we're ordering dinner tonight. What do you want? And really checking in with yourself. What do I want? Not just default. And it's okay if you're overwhelmed and don't want to make the decision. That's fine. How you know you're reaching a boundary is whenever you feel a no, big or small, in your body. And by attending to all of these no's, you're going to reduce resentment and the feeling of losing yourself. So there you have it. Those are my 5 big tips. Now, as you begin to try out these tips, remember, making change isn't something natural. It's going to feel uncomfortable, and it's going to require you to stretch yourself into the unknown, stretch yourself into the unfamiliar. But every time you do this, you begin to build self-trust, which then builds confidence. And as my favorite, Esther Perel says, true confidence is not defined as perfection or the absence of mistakes, but as the ability to view oneself as a flawed individual and still hold yourself in high regard. So remember to be kind to yourself as you lean into discomfort, because we are all flawed. Okay, that's it. That's all I have for you today. I really appreciate it if you made it all the way through here and you listened. I appreciate your time, and I appreciate the commitment to your growth and change and whatever that looks like. Yeah, so much love. Please let me know if this brought up anything for you, if you have any questions, or if you view something differently. I'd be really open to hearing anything. So yeah, have a great week, everyone, and sending love and kisses from my garden. Bye.